आकाशवल्लेपविदूरगोऽहम् आदित्यवद् भास्यविलक्षणोऽहम्
स्वाराज्य साम्राज्य विभूतिरेषा भवत्कृपा श्रीमहिमप्रसादात् प्राप्ता मया श्रीगुरवे महात्मने नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमस्तस्मै सदैकस्मै कस्मै चिन्महसे नमः यदेतद्विश्वरूपेण राजते गुरुराजते यदेतद्विश्वरूपेण राजते गुरुराजते। हरि। This 14th chapter is the basis for the next few chapters. 15th not so much to some extent, but 16th, 17th, 18th. That is, this guna discussion will not end in 14th chapter, as you have seen already 18th. But even 16th, 17th are also mainly based on this three guna model and discussions on that. Because the author has felt it to be so important. That is why the discussion is going on for so many chapters. Whenever in Upanishad we find one phrase or one sentence is repeated, it is meant that that is very important. That is why they are repeating it, is coming back again and again. Like that, when certain things are discussed over a long period, particularly here over so many chapters, 16th, 17th, 18th, it means that it is very important. In 17th chapter itself is called Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Shraddhatraya Vibhaga. Here it is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. There it is Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And there also the Shraddha also is categorized according to the gunas. The fundamental shloka there is Shraddha mayoyam purushaha yo yat shraddha saeva saha. Purushaha shraddha mayaha. A person is as if he is made of whatever his shraddha is. In our body, in our appearance, we may look different. But truly speaking, what we are is our mind. And that depends on what kind of Shraddha we are embodied with, what Shraddha we have. Now this Shraddha, there is no proper English translation. So we can say it is attention, assiduous attention, we can say it is respect, we can say it is devotion, all these things we can say. But basically, I would like to explain it as value assigned to evaluation of anything. That is, what is the value we are assigning in life. Suppose you value money to be the most valuable, then your mind will always think about money. If you value fame to be the highest thing, then your mind will always look for fame, mana, apamana, etc. Not only fame. If you value purity to be the most important, then your mind will always think of purity. So it is entirely dependent on what we are valuing most in life. Is it not? And whatever we value maximum, value most, automatically our attention will be for that. We will always be attentive. So Shraddha means attention also. In that way it means attention. Because whatever we have value, we will be attentive to that. It also means respect. In the religious sense, it also means respect, devotion, etc. It says, Shraddha mayoyam purusha. Shraddha mayaha ayam purusha. Yo yat shraddha saeva saha. Whatever is our shraddha for, we become that. Is it not true? Of our mind, whatever we have the shraddha, we become that. Saying that, he has analyzed various kinds of shraddha people have. And actually, is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga also, it depends finally on the shraddha. If you have the value for the sattvika gunas, whatever we are discussing, then your attention will be to how I can inculcate sattva guna. If it is not so, if our shraddha is for so-called enjoyment of the life, sensory life and all, naturally our shraddha will be Rajasika shraddha, like that. Now in this 17th chapter it is like this. 16th chapter is called Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. There they have taken Daiva and Asura. Deva and Asura. So Daiva Sampatti and Asura Sampatti. Sampatti here in spirituality, Sampatti never means any external Sampatti. Spirituality deals with internal. So any enrichment, Sampatti means treasure. So anything that is considered to be treasure in spirituality, it will be internal. So he says that's Daiva Sampatti and Asura Sampatti. That is the qualities of our mind, of our nature. What are the qualities? There it is not just Sattvic and Rajasika, but Sattvika Rajasika mixture which makes the Daiva quality, mostly Sattvika qualities there, and Rajasika, Tamasika together makes the Asuri Sampatti in 16th chapter. Now there is another also division, not right here, but it is called Daiva, Asura and Rakshasa. The three kinds of being we can think of, Devas, Asuras and Rakshasas. Rakshasas are fully Tamasika. That is, there again three if you divide like that. But here the way it is divided, Asura means it is Rajasika, Tamasika together. It is based on the three guna model. Then going to the 18th chapter at the end, he says after finishing the Gunatraya division of various things, they have categorized the three kinds of Sukha, three kinds of Buddhi, three kinds of Dhruti, three kinds of Karma, three kinds of Karta, then maybe something else also. All this, after this division, he says that I have divided the whole creation into four categories. He says, Chaturvanyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. Now this is another widely misunderstood and misinterpreted shloka. So we have to be very careful on the discussion on this Chaturvanya concept. It has nothing to do with the caste division as we feel. I will just introduce, but maybe I will again come back at the end when we do the 18th chapter in further detail. I will come back. But this at least we should understand very well. Varna means color. And there is color division, that is characteral division, quality division, that is meant by Varna. Whereas Jati or caste means whatever way we are born. That means the lineage, how we are born. So this Jati Bheda we so much condemn. That has to do with when we say our Brahmana's son is becoming Brahmana. But actually in our Shastras it is not that. A Shudra's son also can become a Brahmana provided he has the Brahmana qualities. And it is not only in human beings, it is there in entire nature, this quality difference. Otherwise Srishti will not be there. Creation means there will be different qualities coming up. In USA or other places also this division is there, but they have not analyzed the society so much, they have not given the name. But you will find there also certain people are doing certain job. The menial job in the airport or the station they are doing. You will not find the other people doing it. So there is a caste difference there also, but they don't call it a caste. And the fundamental problem has arisen out of this caste difference. Actually, it is not caste, it is varna difference. Is that we started looking down upon everybody. That is, if I belong to a higher caste, I look down upon the other lower caste or so. So upper and lower, all these divisions have come. Whereas this varna division has been made actually to take us to the same goal. That means here it is the emphasis is on the underlying unity, not on the external division. But depending on the external division, our sadhana will be different. So varna division is necessary because each varna will do their sadhana whichever is suitable to him according to that. But finally, it is all standing on the truth that all of us are one. We are all the same Atma. And on that, this variety is appearing. So there is no question ever of looking down upon. It is a corruption of the society which has created this. Now, I will go a step further. Be very careful to understand. Suppose the Varna division, which means that people have different quality. It will automatically and generally become a caste after some time. How? Generally, a professor will try to marry amongst the educated people. He will not marry a coolie or somebody working some menial labor or so. He is not going to marry. A professor will generally choose a person, even economic condition also we choose. We generally marry from a same group. Suppose a musician, he would always like to pick up somebody who is fond of music. A doctor, you will find mostly they marry another doctor. So when the same group undergoes marriage, then it is most likely that hereditary qualities of that particular profession or the work will be there in the next generation. If not next generation, when it continues for a few generations, automatically they will be very efficient and skillful in that. That is how we had such sculptors, carpenters. You will find the traditional carpenters, excellent carpenters. They are traditionally carpenters. They excel in the skill. Our Dhakai muslin, the cloth making, the cloth industry, the British people have completely spoilt it. But it was depending on this generation to generation, and they will have some trade secret. Our Paras also makes a masala which he will not disclose to his assistants. He will keep it in a bottle and they have to use it. Now, if it is Paras's son and he wants him also to become a cook, then he will disclose it to him and it will follow like that. Now, because similar quality people will always try to marry amongst them, automatically that generation will have those. We find that newborn child, maybe not even 3 years old, musicians' children, they so much start appreciating music, if not start singing at that point. It is automatic, it will happen. Anywhere it will happen. Even if it is USA or Europe also, when two professors marry, their son automatically takes to better education and educational qualities will be there. So, because of this Varna division, the same Varna, choice of the same quality people in marriage, automatically the Varna becomes Jati after some time. We cannot help it. It will. In nature is like that. It will become like that. In some cases, but in general it is so. Some differences will be there. In a same family also, 3 children will be having difference of qualities, but by and large these will be there. In an educated family, automatically you will find that the most of the children are doing good in education. They will not have problem. Whereas when the first generation takes to education, they have lot of problem. We have to help them specially to undertake it. The problem comes in looking down upon, which is absolutely against the Shastras. Shastras, the basis of it is that all are same. They may do, the nature is made of like that. The nature is a manifestation, plural manifestation of the one truth. Like that, human beings are also, all are manifestation of the one Atma, not that my Atma is different from his Atma. The Atma is only one. So there is no difference at all. There is no question of any looking down upon. We may become sympathetic, we may be compassionate, but not look down upon anybody. That is the fundamental part of Shastras. Now, there he had said that this Chaturvanyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, according to the gunas, and the guna will also define what karma they will take to. Like that, he has defined Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Now, saying all the division and all the karma, what he is saying in Bhagavad Gita is that, but this ultimate Gunatita level or this liberated level is available to anybody doing any work. Why and how he is attaining, that also he has said. He has said in one line, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. I will come in a little detail towards the end. I am just telling you the gist. That is, whatever karma one is doing, if he does it as an offering to the Lord, then that will take him to Siddhi. That is, all our work in 3rd chapter he has said the same thing, saying that all our work should become yajna. Krishna is expert in, or the Vedavyasa is expert in all the traditional Vedic concepts. They have changed into great meaningful concepts and universal timeless concepts. For example, originally Yajna concept was something you do with desire, desireful action. Nobody will do a yajna unless he wants the result promised by the yajna. Suppose Dasharatha did the Putra Kameshti yajna because he wanted son. Without that, otherwise he would not have done it. Some people are afraid of going to the hell, so they want to reserve seat in the heaven after his body falls. So they will do corresponding yajna, which says that if you do this yajna properly, then you will reach heaven. So they will do. So Vedic prescription of yajna was, there also the society was in their mind that people should not get into bad actions. Somehow, if they don't have anything to do, their mind will create all kinds of problem in the society. So make them do something, and there you direct their desire to follow that. Otherwise, to fulfill the desire, they will cause harmful things. In doing yajna, there is nothing harmful. It is all good, and everything used is also for the purification of the atmosphere. Many things are used, medicinal, this, that. And prescriptions are such that if you want to do the yajna properly, then you have to be extremely attentive and austere. And so that a person takes to it, the adverse conditions are mentioned. If you don't do it properly, then instead of going to the heaven, you will go to the hell. So they are scared of going to hell. They want to go to the heaven. So they will follow all the prescriptions given, whatever. Before the yajna, you start 41 days, tapas, this, that and all, whatever is there, you will do. Then while doing, performing, how many ishtikas will be there, how they have to be put, where you have to offer. In our Vishnu Sahasranama yajna, everybody offers wrongly. When the fire in the yajna kunda is there, according to prescription, you have to offer it right in the fire so that the fire burns happily. In our case, when we put the dhanya, navadhanya and all, half of it falls outside. It starts falling from here and finally the last portion goes into the yajna kunda. These are all because we are not doing yajna in the Vedic sense. We are doing the yajna for some other purpose here. We have designed it for that purpose, so we don't worry about it, that nobody by doing the yajna is going to go to the hell. So it is done like that. Now, if they are doing it for going to heaven and the condition is given, if it is done wrongly, they have described 7 kinds of fire are there. They are called Sapta Jivha, 7 tongues of the fire. Where you have to put the offering, in what condition, that is also mentioned. So nothing wrong can be done there. So all this will put lot of attention, and many other things are there so that your normal potential to do harmful things and other things because of your desire, that will get extinguished by that, and your mind will get more integrated, more orderly. All these are the expected results. If you don't do the yajna properly, then the results also will not be had. As Nachiketa's father was not performing the yajna properly, So Nachiketa felt that my father will go to hell. So let me save my father. So he went to his father and said that to whom you are going to offer. Because one very, very important part of any yajna is the dana at the end. That is, after the yajna is over, you have to give so much that you become a pauper. You cannot keep material and give in a miserly manner. That is the prescription. And Kalidasa describes that a king who has done the yajna, after that a saint has come. Normally, to welcome the saint, the good kings will go with the golden vessel, water in a golden pot, and pour water and give him so many other things and all. Here he is describing the king is coming with a mud pot, carrying water in a mud pot to welcome the guest, welcome the sannyasin, the rishi. Why? Because he does not have any gold in the kingdom. It has all gone, given off. So there is lot more things I have discussed earlier also. There is economy also is involved. Because whenever the king's coffer gets full, lot of money has got accumulated. Minister will come and tell the king that Maharaj, our coffer is full, you should do some yajna. Why? Because through yajna the money will get distributed to the society. Everybody will get money. And some of the yajnas, like big kings doing Ashwamedha yajna, which takes a preparation for 1 year. During that period, all pandal makers, artists, sculptors, musicians, everybody will be employed. And they will be paid also. So what will happen, that whatever money had got accumulated in king's coffer will be distributed amongst the people. And finally, that is through wages also, payment against their work. Then whatever remains, the people who are not paid for anything, they will have to be given the dana. That is, they are not doing anything against money. Suppose educationists, brahmanas, education in our country was never sold. That is why we don't charge anything in CIRDs also. We cannot charge. Even foreign countries, they say, unless you charge, people will not come. And let not people come. One day some culture will come to USA also, when they will come even if we don't charge. But we cannot charge. We cannot violate our principle. We will tell here also that this is India. We cannot sell education. But it is saying also, I feel shy, because here now education is sold for crores. The other day I heard that to get admitted in a medical college, you have to give 1 crore. That kind of medical colleges are there. So this is the corruption which has entered. Otherwise, we are not supposed to sell Vidya. Vidya cannot be sold. So naturally, the Pandits, Brahmanas, priests, etc., they were not wage earners. So such people would have to be given lot of dana. Similarly, the people staying in the forest, Vanaprasthis and all, they also will be given dana. Now, if you have to do all these things properly, will not your mind become expanded? Because the moment you give dana, emptying everything and all, your mind will automatically know the joy of giving off, joy of not accumulating for yourself and distributing everything to others. We always hoard things and become more and more constricted. Once we start dehoarding, I don't know the word is there or not, that is giving off, then we will understand the joy of giving. And automatically there will be a transformation in the mind coming. This was the plan. There are many other points also to be mentioned in this respect, but it is a very wise plan of the society where economy is involved, all the people are involved, wage earners are involved, other people are involved, kingly rule is involved, many things are involved, and general tendencies of the people also is looked after, so that the society does not go astray. The society left to itself, always there will be a degeneration, because people are selfish, they are competitive, they are jealous of each other, they try to harm each other. So naturally, if you leave the society to itself, it will get destroyed. That is what has happened in the world civilization. You look, so many famous civilizations, Greek, Roman, etc., they have all gone. But our country, this is prehistoric civilization. We don't know how many thousands of years this civilization has lived. Far, maybe 5, 10, 20, we cannot say. It is prehistoric. So this civilization has remained because of this, the forces which put the society on the auspicious track. People like us, that those who are spiritual people or sannyasins and all, we have only one work. It is called Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha. Directly, many people will think it is collecting people. Loka Sangraha means more and more लोगों को ज्यादा लोगों को लेके आओ, ऐसा नहीं है. लोक संग्रह मीन्स लोकानाम उन्मार्ग प्रवृत्ति निवृत्तर्थम कर्म. Lokanam unmarga pravritti. That means if you leave the society to go by itself, it will get diverted, it will go on the inauspicious track. It will not be on the auspicious track. It will naturally go out of the auspicious track. To stop this degeneration, nivrittartham, to stop this tendency to degenerate, that is called loka sangraha. Whatever work is done, our all work is for that only, whether it is dana satra or teaching in the class or writing books, going visiting different countries, it is all the only one description is the loka sangraha, for putting the society on the auspicious track. Now, yajna, etc., those principles, also, those prescriptions also are there for keeping the society on the auspicious track. Now, what did Krishna do or Vedavyasa do in Bhagavad Gita? They defined that yajna was for fulfilling our desire, either this world or other world desires. He says that no, the yajna, whatever you do, if you do it free of desire, desireless karma becomes yajna. That is the whole nature, there is no desire. The whole thing is a huge Vishwa yajna of the universal Lord. It is an universal yajna of the universal Lord. That everything is doing its own work naturally, spontaneously, without any desire. The plants are growing, the flowers are blossoming, the planets are moving, the sun is radiating. No desire, it is absolutely natural everywhere. So it is a yajna performed, that's a universal yajna of the Lord. Like that, when we do everything without sangha, without ragadvesha, without looking for the gain that this will produce this result and by that I will be happy, that result. That I think now you are clear. That every work we do, whatever result, that will make me happy. That is the gain we are always looking for. If that is eliminated, we do because it is a work which has come and it has to be done. And by doing it, we do not develop any sangha to that, clinging to our preference and prejudice. If it is done in that manner, it becomes a yajna. So, whether it is a menial work or an educational work or a war, fighting a war, if we can do it as yajna, then siddhim vindati manava. Swakarmana tamabhyacha siddhim vindati manava. That means it becomes a worship, worshipping the truth with our own karma. A kshatriya will worship the truth by fighting the righteous war. A Vaishya will worship the truth by sharing, by what is Vaishya vritti? It is sharing. Without the business transaction, society cannot survive. So actually it is sharing, that they are taking material from here, giving that, doing this. If they do with the love for the society and the sharing part is their work, if they do it with that idea that I am contributing this as the yajna of the universal Lord, because my way is to do trading and this is what I am doing. Similarly, the Kshatriya, I have already said, Vaishya, then Shudra. Shudra, the qualities they have described is generally they do service for others. Now, if they do the service for others as service to the Lord, not getting attached to anything, not thinking that I am doing something menial work or anything of that sort, then that becomes a yajna for him. I always say that a knower is at once Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra in its purest form. How? He is definitely a Brahmana because he is dispensing knowledge everywhere. So, Brahmana goes without saying. Kshatriya he is because Kshatriya is not only war. Kshatriya means energy, Rajoguna, that pure Rajoguna, which is doing everything in the world. A knower, he perhaps works 10 times the other people generally. He is always active, doing many things. Even if it is writing book, they will write with so much of devotion, concentration, that normally you know about Vachaspati Mishra. That Vachaspati Mishra started writing Tika on the Brahma Sutra Bhashya. So when he started writing, his mother was there and she was giving him food. He was writing. When he finished it, and after completing the Tika, many years, many decades have passed by then. He went to the river, took bath and came back, and while serving food, he found a lady is serving food who is not his mother. So he looked at her and asked her, who are you? She said, I am your wife. Mother has passed away long back. And I have been serving you. My hair has, now they have become grey. When I came, I was young, but so many years have passed, I have become old now. Then Vachaspati Mishra felt that, oh, such a wrong thing I have done. Somebody married this lady to me and I have not looked at her at all. It is a great papa. He said that this has been possible for me to write only because of your service. Had she not given the food, he would have felt hunger, he would not have been able to write. So this Tika will be known to the society in your name. So the Tika is called Bhamati Tika. As you found that I remembered Bhamati Tika, but I could not remember the name of Vachaspati Mishra. That is what he wanted also, that nobody will know my name, they will know your name. So he named it Bhamati. So you can understand the kind of dedication they had. Whatever they did, the kind of dedication, that you will find from the Sanskrit language also. Amazing language, the development of the language, everything. So Noah is at once a Brahmana, a Kshatriya because of the activities he is involved in, untiring activities. He is a Vaishya because Vaishya's basic force is love, sharing. We may distort it, but the true force of a true Vaishya is love for the society, and with which he does the sharing of the material from here and there. So the knower is only doing sharing of what he has. And if he can, as we are doing the Dana Satra, what are we doing? Taking money from all over the world and giving to the poor here. That is also a kind of sharing, Vaishyavritti. And the last one is Shudra. He is the most efficient Shudra because in his life there is nothing other than service. Maybe it is giving knowledge or whatever. He is doing with the service mentality. He is living only for the people or for the world. Atmano mokshaya jagadhitaya cha. When he does not need any more liberation effort or anything like that, it is only for Lokahita, that he stays Lokahita. Everywhere the question comes that why should a knower live? What is the motivation for him? It is for Lokahita that he stays. So there is no question of looking down upon either the activity or the knowledge or the sharing through love or the service to people. See, knower also serves in a manner, many people give him gali also or misbehave with him, but he doesn't mind that. He will not curse anybody. By serving people, he gets all kinds of reactions from them. So that is the real service. I will not say like a dog he serves, but still it's a loyalty of that kind, may not be to that level. So he has taken here, what I wanted to tell you is that this Gunatraya, after we have known the functions of the three gunas, what are the bondages created by them, etc., we have to have a question that one way is to become Gunatita by removing the Ragadvesha and Sangha to whatever the guna produces. So we can become free. That is Gunatita. Another is, the question may come that should we not always try to transform ourselves to more and more sattva guna. That is what we are discussing. By changing our food, by changing our all kinds of ahara, our practices, we should develop more and more sattva guna. But however much we may do the transformation of the sattva guna, we are born with a certain basic qualities. Our personality is born with certain qualities. That cannot be changed to that extent. That quality, the basic quality of our personality defines what kind of work we will do. Suppose somebody is very intelligent and given to knowledge, he will be best performing through knowledge. If somebody is born with a very strong built mind and body and all, he can become a good administrator. He will take to the Kshatriya Vritti. If somebody is born with lot of trader intelligence and all, how he can do, and he must have a love for the society. As for the old Tatas, Jamshedji Tata and others, we find that it is the love for the society with which they developed these factories and the business. It was not for anything else. They had become completely pauper, giving all the family wealth and everything, sacrificing everything. So was it not a Vaishya's sharing mentality, love for the, everywhere you will find that the love for the society was working. A real Vaishya will be like that. So the qualities will define what kind of work we will do. What is Adhyatma? What is spirituality? Arjuna has asked. In reply to that, Krishna replies, Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. Swabhavaha is called Adhyatma. The spirituality is one word, it is defined as Swabhava. Now this Swabhava has two aspects of it. We should understand very well. Spirituality is an English word. The Sanskrit word for spirituality is Adhyatma. Adhyatmika Vidya is called spiritual knowledge. Now he says Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. What is this Swabhava? One is the Swabhava means our own nature. One Swabhava is the nature of our true identity, that of the soul. That is the real Swabhava for everybody. Now that Swabhava will not differ from person to person. It will be same for everybody, because soul is not different for different bodies. It is uniform. It never gets changed by anything. It never gets affected by anything. It never gets tainted. It doesn't touch any of the personality qualities. It just simply reveals. And that is our real identity. So that is the pristine ultimate Swabhava. Now there is another aspect of the Swabhava, that this Swabhava of the soul, when it manifests through a certain personality, then it takes the qualities of the personality in that manifestation. That is the Prakriti element is coming. First Swabhava is the soul, that is the Purusha element. That is always common. When it is Purusha is manifest through the Prakriti, the qualities of the Prakriti will come, of the nature will come. That is why you find that, say, Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, in their realization, it is the same Atma they have realized, the same truth they have realized. But in their functions, the two are poles apart, absolutely different. So much so that the co-disciples sometimes used to doubt what Naren is doing. Maybe it is not according to Thakur's wish. He is going against him. They were not able to understand why he is working like this. So, the Swabhava of the soul, when the mind and intelligence becomes free of the desire and ego, then it has its natural manifestation. This natural manifestation is very important. Through spiritual pursuit, what we are doing is we are removing the raga dvesha. It means we are removing the sangha, that is clinging to what we like, hating what we dislike, we are removing that. And we are removing desires, that is the fundamental thing. We are removing the desires. When the desires are removed, he becomes absolutely natural. Whatever comes he does, he becomes like a fallen dry leaf. According to the wind he moves. So he does whatever work comes, according to that he performs. And it will be according to his capacity also. What his personality can do, that only he will do. Everybody will not do the same thing. Some are they will be able to explain the scriptures. Some will not be able to explain the scriptures, but they will do lot of activity with that knowledge. Many things can be there. It is different for each person. It depends on the qualities of his personality. So, it should be very clear to us that this adhyatma or spirituality is the swabhava. One is uniform for everybody. It is the pristine nature of the soul. That is the real identity we have. That is the Purusha. But the same consciousness, when it manifests through the personality, it takes the qualities of the personality. But normally this manifestation is not natural. It gets stunted by the desires, by the ego. It gets deformed. Just like a flower, its natural blossoming is with its qualities. But if there is an insect, there is some fungus inside, then the petals become crooked. Like that, our life also normally it is not a full blossoming. If we take away the insects of desire, the ragadvesha, fungus and all those things, then it will become a full blossoming flower. But each flower will blossom with its own quality. A big red rose will blossom as a big red rose. A small grass flower will blossom as a small white or yellow grass flower. So each, in its full blossom is its full fulfillment, and that is the potential it has. That is the fulfillment of its life. Like that, we can also blossom with our full potential like a flower with the qualities we have, with our willpower, with our intelligence, with our analysis, everything. That will be blossoming as a flower. Then it is a natural manifestation. This natural manifestation is called swakarma, swabhava karma, swadharma. All these terms are used for that. That is the swabhava, the one is that uniform, pristine nature of the soul, same for everybody. The other is the swabhava karma, sahaja karma, swadharma. These are the terms. Sahaja means natural karma. This, when he is saying swakarmana tam abhyacha, that means whatever I am fit for doing, when we start offering it to the Lord as a yajna, that means removing the desire for a gain or a ragadvesha from there, then that automatically makes us more and more fit for the swabhava karma. Finally, it becomes only swabhava karma, and that is the attainment, that you become free. So it is not that always the guna constitution has to be changed and finally everybody will become equally sattvic or so. No, it is not possible. It is not allowed by nature. Everybody has a natural constitution, has a natural personality. It is to allow the personality to blossom in full with all its gunatraya vibhaga, its qualities and all, removing the desires, the sangha, the ragadvesha from our mind. Then it will blossom in full. Is it clear? So there are two ways before us. To do this also you need some sattva guna. Suppose I am now explaining this. To understand that you have to have a sattvika buddhi to some extent. Otherwise you will not be able to understand what am I to do. So that much of transformation is necessary. But never should we think that everybody will become peak of sattva guna and everybody will do only with the knowledge and all. It's not so. Everybody, whatever field, that is why the story in Mahabharata of the Dharmavyadha story is there, who was dealing with meat. He was selling meat. And the person who wanted to know the self, he was sent to him. So he was very shocked that what am I to do here? He is selling meat, I am to learn the truth of the soul from him. So Vyadha understood his mind and he said that I will tell you what it is. And the story goes like that. Before that also it's a long story. In Mahabharata it is there, Dharmavyadha story. So it is not that everybody will become equally sattvic and we can change to the extent possible by changing our ahara, changing our food and other inputs to some extent. Definitely we can cultivate the sattva guna, because the more sattva guna we have to cultivate to win over the bondage created by tamaguna and rajaguna. Without that, this swakarmana tamabhyarcha also will not be possible. We will not be able to do whatever we are doing as a jajna. We will not be able to surrender or offer our work to the Lord unless that much of sattva guna is cultivated, so that we are able to get rid of the sangha and the raga dvesha, preference and prejudice. This is the fundamental of all these chapters, the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, and what are we to do. It comes finally to the end of the 18th chapter, where he says that, verse number 57, Chetasa sarvakarmani Mai sanyasya matparaha Buddhi yogam upashritya Macchitta satatam bhava. He says that sarva karmani, that means whatever we are doing, chetasa mai sanyasya matparaha. Matparaha means considering me to be the supreme. That is, the goal is not gaining some sukha, some sensory sukha or any other sukha, fame, name, anything, or spoiling somebody else's future, nothing like that. It is considering me to be the supreme. Matparaha means considering me, means the truth, the ultimate goal. Considering that to be the supreme, what do you do? Sarva karmani mai sanyasa. You surrender or offer all the work you do to me. How do you offer? Chetasa. The work is done with the limbs. You cannot offer it. Offering is taking place with what mindset you are doing the work. If you are not doing the work for any personal gain, personal preference, personal prejudice, then it becomes an offering. When it is done without desire, without gain feeling, without any personal selfish aim, then it becomes an offering. So the whole thing is working in the mind. Chetasa sanyasya, through the mind. And how do you do it? Buddhi yogam upashritya. Upashritya, again ashraya, refuge. I explained refuge on the first day itself, that refuge means you completely take refuge under that. You don't run after anything else. That is that complete refuge. Upashritya, what do you take refuge in? Buddhi yogam. See, Bhagavad Gita repeatedly says Buddhi yogam. That means it is the understanding what is the yoga element in our karma. Karma everybody is doing. When does it become yoga? When it is done without any sangha. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. When it is done without any personal gain or anything, but when it is done without ahankara, without ego. So that has to be understood through buddhi yoga. This yoga is, although we call it karma yoga, bhakti yoga, but all that is understanding is based on the buddhi. So to understand with the buddhi, we have to have that sattva guna, otherwise the buddhi will not be able to understand. Not only sattvika buddhi we have to have sattvika dhruti also. This I will read tomorrow, their explanation on buddhi and dhruti. That is, whatever we understand with the buddhi, we have to hold on to it with the dhruti. Dhruti means dharana kshamata. We understand with the sattvika buddhi. Now we have understood, but we will not be able to retain it without the sattvika dhruti. So we have to develop sattvika dhruti for that. Now if our dhruti is rajasika, then we will be indulging in sense pleasures and all. If our dhruti is tamasika, then we will be indulging in moha, delusion. See, in 45th verse of 18th chapter, after he has defined what is Brahmana, what is Kshatriya, what is Vaishya, what is Shudra, what are their work, everything he has defined. After completing the 3 divisions, then the 4 divisions, that is, with the 3 guna constitution, we are making 4, these are all models. There is not only 4 varnas, there will be infinite varnas. But broadly, these are the categories. With the 3 guna constitution, we are creating 4 varnas. How? Say, in one is sattva, rajas, tamas. That means SRT. That is Brahmana. In Kshatriya, it is rajas, sattva, tamas. That is RST. In Vaishya, it is rajas, tamas, sattva. RTS. And in Shudra, it is tamas, rajas, sattva. That is TRS. So these 4 constitutions are made with the 3 guna model. From the 3 guna, we derive these 4 kinds of people. Actually, there will be infinite variety. How much is the sattva? How much is the rajas? How much is the tama? When it is going up? When it is going down? There is no end to it. So after defining this, he is saying in 45th verse, Sve sve karmanyabhirataha
स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरतः
samsiddhim labhate naraha
संसिद्धिं लभते नरः
swakarma niratas siddhim
स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिं
yatha vindati tachshinu.
यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु
Sve sve karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha. Because he has identified all kinds of activity for the 4 kinds of people, he says sve sve karmani abhirata. People remaining engaged in their own fit activity. Suppose Arjuna, he was repeatedly telling Krishna that this war I cannot fight. Krishna, you are repeatedly saying that this pursuit of the soul knowledge is the highest, it is the supreme. Then why are you forcing me to fight this war? I will not fight the war. I will go to the forest, take up sannyasa, live on begging. But Krishna started scolding him almost, saying that you have lost your manliness. What is this? You are not fit for that kind of a practice. You are fit for fighting the war. Even if you go to the forest and live on begging, your mind will not get rid of Duryodhana, because for 14 years you have been thinking on the war and how to defeat Duryodhana and get back your kingdom. Suddenly can you take to only meditation and shastric studies? It is not possible. You are not fit for that. So that fitness criterion is very important in this. Who is fit for what kind of a work? According to that he has to choose. That is the swakarma. He says sve sve karmani abhiratha samsiddhim lavate naraha. Not only siddhi, samyak siddhi. These words have to be gone into. Samsiddhim, not siddhim vindati. Samsiddhim means samyak siddhi. They will get the best possible fruition or the ultimate goal for them. Swakarma nirata siddhim yatha vindati tachinu. How to attain this siddhi by remaining engaged in our own work? I will tell you that. Know that from me. Now after that he says in the 46th verse, this is very important verse. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam
यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yena sarvamidam tatam
येन सर्वमिदं ततं
swakarmana tamabhyatya
स्वकर्मणा त्वमभ्यर्च्य
siddhim vindati manavaha
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः
yatah pravrittir bhutanam
यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yena sarvamidam tatam
येन सर्वमिदं ततं
swakarmana tamabhyatya
स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च्य
siddhim vindati manavaha.
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः.
He says yataha bhutanam pravrittihi. That means from where all these bhutas, the entire whole universe has come. From where? That is on which substratum the whole universe is appearing to be. Yena idam sarvam tatam, by which everything here is pervaded. Actually it is not pervading. The whole universe is appearing in the consciousness. So consciousness is the fundamental substratum for it. But when our reality is on the universe, we can say everywhere God is percolating, or the consciousness is there in everything. God cannot be missed anywhere at all. All other things can be missed. They are in the object. But the revealer of the objects, the subject, the revealer of the object cannot be missed anywhere at all. So by which all these things are pervaded, from which this whole universe has come, and all the unimaginable tremendous functions are going on in the universe, from whom it is happening. Swakarmana tamabhyarcha. This is the tremendous cosmic energy functioning in the universe. But you can play your little role there by putting in your effort and your energy there. Swakarma. That is according to what you are fit to do. You put that energy, and that will be your worship. As the sun, moon, they are worshipping by their activity. The sun is worshipping the Lord by radiating the light and heat. The moon is worshipping the Lord by creating high tide and low tide and everything going around the earth. As the ocean is offering its water by through radiation to evaporate and have rain all over the earth. Everybody is doing their own duty. Its whole universe is performing their duty as an offering to the Lord. Like that, you also do whatever you are fit to do, your swakarma, that whatever is natural for you to do, what is the manifestation of the soul through your personality, without the hindering elements of desire and raga, dvesha and all. This is a pure manifestation of the soul. By worshipping Him, that truth which is everywhere and which is the source of the substratum of the entire universe, by worshipping that truth, your own, with your karma, siddhim vindati manavaha. Everybody will have their siddhi or fulfillment through that. So this is the idea in learning that Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. It is finally, it will lead to this Chaturvarnam and lead to what is the Sahaja Karma, Swabhava Karma, and by which we can worship the Lord, that all our work will become Yajna, and by that we will attain the Siddhi. This is the fundamental philosophy. What I spoke today, it is extremely rare. If you can think on it, ruminate on it, everything will become clear. It is very, very rare. Even I have never spoken like this about this Triguna and Chaturvarna and this. All concepts will become clear, and it is very difficult to get this kind of a consolidated concept from reading the chapters, because you will get lost in the chapters, in the shlokas. What is happening finally? What is the purpose of the author in presenting through these 4 chapters? This is something extremely important. I think we have not written about it in this manner also. I would like to make some diagrams so that it gets consolidated. Okay. We will conclude. Prabuddham vimuktam vikaradihinam prasannam sada nitya bodhasvarupam param nishchalam nirgunam sarvarupam bhajeham sadanusmarami pranomi. Prabuddham vimuktam vikaradihinam prasannam sada nitya bodhasvarupam param nishchalam nirgunam sarvarupam bhajeham sadanusmarami pranomi.